And the plaintiff in the landmark Supreme Court case Roe v. Wade dies at 69 years old. One America's Rachel Acenas has her story.
Norma McCorvey passed away of heart failure on Saturday at an assisted living facility in Texas. McCorvey was most known, however, as Jane Roe, the plaintiff at the heart of the 1973 landmark Supreme Court case, which legalized abortion in the U.S. But her story is a complicated one. She was a woman who struggled with addiction, abuse, and sexual identity. And while she started off on one side of the abortion issue, her position eventually changed over time.
In 1973, a 21-year-old poor and unwed expecting mother filed a lawsuit looking to legally and safely end her pregnancy, which she said was a result of rape. But what she got was more than just that. Norma McCorvey became Jane Roe, the plaintiff in Roe v. Wade, and eventually the face of the pro-choice movement. But by the time the Supreme Court reached a ruling, her child was 2.5 years old, and she gave her up for adoption. McCorvey confessed at one point her pregnancy was not a result of rape. Roe v. Wade was a landmark case celebrated by supporters of women's rights and blasted by anti-abortion activists.
In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court today legalized abortions.
The Supreme Court today ruled that abortion is completely a private matter to be decided by mother and doctor in the first 3 months of pregnancy.
After the ruling, Norma McCorvey continued with her life working in abortion clinics, but found herself detached from the pro-choice movement. She said she never felt she fit easily or comfortably in her role within the movement, calling it a heavy burden. Her social background as a poor high school dropout, drug and alcohol addict, and lesbian made her feel out of place among the largely upper class and well-educated pro-choice activists. And as her bitterness toward the movement began to grow, her position on the abortion issue also evolved. In her second book called Won by Love, she writes about the moment she changed her mind, saying, quote, "I was sitting in OR's offices when I noticed a fetal development poster. The progression was so obvious, the eyes were so sweet. It hurt my heart just looking at them. I ran outside and finally it dawned on me. Norma, I said to myself, they're right." In this interview with ABC's Nightline, the woman who was the face of the case which legalized abortion began to change her tune, no longer speaking as a pro-life activist, but a born-again Christian.
I've sold drugs. I was an abusive alcoholic for many years. I've done a lot against his teachings. But I think the far greater sin that I did was to be the plaintiff in Roe versus Wade. I want to help women educate themselves around sex education. I would like to teach women that there's other alternatives to abortion.
But even on the other side of the debate, McCorvey never found a comfortable home. As one historian wrote, neither side was ever willing to accept her for who she was.
And despite the opinions of activists on either side of the issue, Norma McCorvey lent her personal story to a court case which changed history forever. To this day, Roe v. Wade remains a lightning rod of controversy over reproductive rights and continues to spark intense debate. For One American News, I'm Rachel Acenas. Back to you at the desk.